Speedrun. We have a game with the white pieces against Josh Ho, rated 1116. We play d4, he plays d5. We now bring out the knight, threatening to play e4. He brings out the knight copying us, but this does not stop us from playing e4. We saw this in the last speedrun game. The guy did the same thing. We played e4, he took, we pushed, kicking his knight around. His knight went here, but right now the best move is to go home. I remember that from analyzing the last game. But how many players will go home? Not in 1100. They're going to go forward and hit your pawn. But now the pawn is adequately defended twice, so I don't have to address it. I can keep kicking the knight and improve for free. He only has this square. Now in the last game, the guy lost the knight. He just took and lost a piece. So hopefully in this game, we can continue down a different line, which is an interesting way to do a speed run, like line after line. Of course, this is just complete random happenstance that we have this, so what are the chances of that? And now he's like, oh wait, where is my knight going? I also remember from the analysis that when he goes here, any developing move was good, but I think the computer best was bishop b5. And on bishop d7, you take the knight. And on c6, he just loses. I do remember that because it was the last video. So let's go bishop b5, which is a developing move anyway. That helps prepare castling. You can't bring your knight here, so it makes sense to bring out your other king side minor piece. He does block with the bishop going down the analysis, which is nice because it's reinforcing, because it's so fresh in my mind, it's reinforcing it, so maybe I'll remember it better. And the computer said take the knight now, and he can no longer fianchetto the bishop. So let's take the knight, ruin the pawn structure. Now his queen is no longer even pressuring our center. There's a pawn hanging. It looks terrible for him, so that's nice. We could take the pawn. Is there a better move though? Let's not get too fancy. Let's just take the pawn. We always have something like knight improving to c5 in the future. Okay, so he moves the bishop, the same piece again, instead of developing. This opens the queen. It hits the knight. And my music stopped. That's why I just noticed my brain stopped thinking. Okay, so first let's make a move and then we'll fix the music. So what did I say? Oh yeah, he's hitting the knight. So let's do something about that. Let's move it with a threat, so it's for free. We get the turn back. He parks here, which makes sense. He has lots of weaknesses over here on the light squares. This pawn is a bit overextended. I kind of want to throw my queen in the center, but I also want to attack the light squares with it. So I think c4, maybe opening his diagonal, is a little tricky for him. So let's go c4. We're removing this object of attack for the future. We're protecting our kind of overextended d pawn because it's pretty far advanced and we don't have a knight to put here to protect it. We're also opening up this diagonal for this check and to win material. So e6, trying to break down our pawn center, makes a lot of sense. It also opens up his bishop. That makes a lot of sense. We could just develop a knight, but we did do this whole thing. Kind of forces his queen here. Then we can take material and threaten to even invade in a weird way because his king is so undeveloped. So although it's an awkward move, it removes this alignment. It does create this alignment. We would also like to get castled too at some point. So here, he takes this pawn. I hit the rook. He double stacks. Okay, so he takes here. Maybe I don't hit the rook. Maybe I just develop. Yeah, probably just develop. I don't want to go pawn hunting with my queen anymore. It's in a very active position inside of his base, hitting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, touching at least 9 squares in his camp. So he does take the pawn. I'm not. That was just equalizing material, so he's not up anything, right? So all I want to do is get a better position. I don't want to address his nonsense. So let's develop the knight, get our knights out. We want a castle, and then we have beautiful knight e5 idea. Because we let him take this pawn, our queen has even further horizontal access, controlling more squares than before. Very annoying piece for black. So he just develops and covers his king to a passive square, which is good because it's non-threatening. And now we have a completely safe construction here. Now we can go on adventures that our king is safe. He develops the knight towards the center, but I think now's the time to launch our knight forward. Maybe. We could just develop. Like rook over is a really powerful move. Let's throw that in. It pins the bishop. I want him to castle before the knight move. So for example, if I go knight in, hits his queen, he moves his queen. Even if I take the bishop, he's going to open up his rook, which isn't the end of the roll or anything, but I would rather have him castled so that his rook's not here. So I'm making a move that is clearly strong, controlling way more squares than on f1, with a pin towards the... Oh, I thought he would definitely unpin. That's crazy. So he leaves the bishop there, unexpected. So now I could definitely just throw this in here, and it comes with an additional threat because he just put another piece in the way. So instead of developing a new piece, which you could, I'm going to improve a piece for free and get the turn back. And now our position is just completely dominating. He let us get our king to safety, and then he let us hop a piece in the center, control the center with our rook. And he's not even close to contesting us in the center with his rook. So he goes here, hitting the queen, so that if I take the queen, I can't win the pawn. But I could take the pawn with my queen. It also comes with a check. If he takes and you take, he takes this pawn, but his bishop is hanging, so he can't. So in this case, let's win free material for free because it's with check. He has to take, we take, but now his bishop's hit twice. The only way to defend it is knight back home, which undevelops his and makes his rook worse. But it's better than losing a piece. And then maybe we can even try to hunt it further. Maybe with the bishop out, maybe with some pawn pressure. Maybe we can hunt this guy and get the knight in. Various ideas. But he can't go forward. He has to find knight g8, which he does not find. I guess he's counting on this rook over. I can't move my knight because I lose the rook. Is that what he's banking on? Does that even work? Here, I get a piece. He moves the rook over. Maybe it does work. My bishop just doesn't help So what do I... What's the best move? I mean, if you take it with the rook, I mean, that's also a good move. Puts his king over here, gets your rook into his camp. You can open up his king further by taking the pawn. Then his rook is kind of, I mean, his king is on c6. That's pretty bad. That's an option. We can also give the check, repeat, see what he does. He has to stay in contact with his bishop, so he has to go back or forward. I'm going to give this check. I think his king is just really terrible. We already snatched this free pawn. If he doesn't stay in contact with the bishop, we can take this bishop followed by this one. So that's why his king has to stay connected, which means he either has to go back in the pin, allowing us to develop for free, or go here and then... Okay, he does not stay in contact with the bishop. He walks into a bad diagonal and hangs material. So let's take this bishop with the sneak attack. I mean, he has to take it because his rook is hanging. Okay, so he just resigns, which makes sense. See, he didn't play it out till the end, which is nice. Let's go over the game. We try to get a Jobava London, and he copies the guy from last game. We threaten e4. He doesn't stop us, so we play it. He captures, but now our pawn is hanging, so forced move, intermezzo, knight to the side, improving move for free. He goes away. We develop for free because it's a check. He goes here. Now we create permanent weaknesses, isolated doubled pawns, outposts. We take a free pawn, free stuff. Force move and for free. Now you probably have lots of moves, but we go for this one, c4. Computer says it's one of the best, so it's fine. It's center and development, so can't be doing too much wrong. And then development for free, also with threats. So they want you to take the queen. If he takes with the king, what's the line here? Like, what's the best? Just open things up. He'll probably take with the pawn and then just develop and his king's open. Okay, I mean, that is a way to play, yeah. But we take, and he takes, and queens are still on the board. So I guess that gives him a little more counter chances, makes the game a little sharper. So it makes sense what the engine kind of wants. Yeah, because now he could... Although this forces the queen trade. But what's the big deal? Whatever, some engine nuances. Either way, we just develop a piece towards the center. And then king safety. I mean, what can you complain about white's position? Everything looks fine. And good, better than fine. He goes here, and we missed an opportunity to hop our knight in the center immediately. I said I wanted to put the rook over because I wanted to kind of lure him into castling. So I went here, and they call it a blunder because apparently there's something forcing. So I'm hitting the queen, so this has to win material if the engine is screaming. So I didn't really go any further than that. Like, I didn't calculate, I just said he's going to move the queen. If I did calculate, he's going to move it and hit our queen. So any of these squares probably. Let's say he goes here because it hits the knight and the queen. This is only crushing because of queen a4 check. When he moves the king, what? Now you put the rook over and he's getting himself into some type of bind? I have no idea. This is way too deep. Like, I'm not even looking at that. I'm not looking at it in game after the game because it's not something I'm considering. It's too weird. Um, Hopping the knight in here only for like the vaguest thing where in the future you play rook e1 and bishop f4. It's a little too much because I plan on playing those moves anyway. So I, like I said, I played this right now, but apparently there's no longer some forcing line because he can castle. Okay, I thought he was going to castle too, which is what I expected, and I was just going to jump my knight in here and say white's better. But there was some positional win, which is a little more advanced that the engine was trying to point out. He now plays c6 and it goes to +4. White's just completely crushing. So now we make this move, doing what we wanted to do, following our plan. And now we take free stuff. It's +4 basically. Force move. Okay, so yeah, you could have taken the bishop with the knight. You could have taken it with the rook. But the check was the best move. I'm curious, if you take it with the knight, and he does go here, what's your best move? Just develop a bishop. Okay. Oops. Okay. So we gave the check, and then he loses material. He blunders everything right away. And he resigns. That makes sense. That all makes sense. Everything makes sense. Just out of curiosity now, because that blunder lowered my accuracy to 90%. So I'm just curious what the computer line looks like at the end of it all. So we hop in. Let's say he goes back. You hit him on the light squares. Oh, is it just because it forces him to not castle, and that positionally gives you even stronger advantage? In an Like the position is almost the same as it would be, only he'll have castled in the other version, and here he has to move his king, so it's clearly worse. That makes sense. I don't know if that's the final conclusion. Let's see. Um, let's say we just develop. He keeps hunting trades. His position's weak. His king is boxed. Okay. Now if we hop the knight in and his queen goes... I guess I should have considered where can his queen go. I didn't even look at it, but if his queen goes here, we have to give him one of these checks all of a sudden. And the checks force him more or less to move the king. If he tries to block with the knight, you just get a huge development advantage. So I think the whole thing of jumping the knight in immediately is just to keep his king here. It just leads to sequences that keep his king tied down. Second you do the knight first, he now has the freedom to move his king. That makes sense. Okay. Not a big deal. Not something that's immediately obvious, you know. You definitely have to concretely look at that line. So, but it's cool to see where the ideas come from, keeping the king in the center, um, giving you a much stronger positional advantage. So something to think about. Good luck in your games. Submit your rapid games in my Discord. And goodbye.